Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. Good
Greetings,
morning, Lori.
greetings.
Good morning,
How are
Samara.
you? I'm doing great, Tammy. Very excited to have Samara here. Samara, you kind of mute yourself and say hello to our audience. You're going to see that there's some people live and we like to interact with them live. So we're so happy to have you, Samara. How are you and where are you coming in from?
Hi, thank you so much, Tammy and Lori, for having me. My name is Samara Beth, and I currently live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'll give you a little bit of tour, but I'm on the golf course.
Great
So
to have Samara here. Samara, you kind of mute yourself and say hello to our audience.
That's me. Sorry.
feedback. No good. You're good. So I live here in Scottsdale, Arizona on a golf course. So I have like an open range here, which is really beautiful. And I can give you guys a little glimpse of it. That's why I came out here into my den. I'm not usually in here. So you guys will get to see a little bit of the art that my teenage daughter and I do. And a little bit about the nature and the scenery, because that's what this is about, art and nature.
It is. And I was blessed. I got to meet Samara when I was in Scottsdale. And she is as sweet as she comes off. I love you, Samara. But I just want to say welcome. And if you have any friends, be sure to share this and be sure to like. And if you guys have any questions, let's open up our discussions here. So, Samara, can you tell us? We want to know a little bit more about you, where you're from, how you got on the journey that you're on, and how you got started in everything you do. You are such a busy lady.
So do you have like a whole week to talk about this? Because my girlfriend from Vancouver, from Canada, was just visiting me for 4 days, and we literally talked like nonstop. And she knows me. And so I am originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I've lived all over. I used to be married to a nuclear submarine officer in the Navy. I moved around a lot with that. And then we went into oil gas construction. So as expats, we moved around continuously, and went to Canada as well. And so I've lived in 13 cities and this is my 30th home that we're sitting in here. And it's wow. Can you believe that I still can't put the box tape into the dispenser without it sticking to itself? You know what I'm talking about? Like
Right.
I
That
still
is
can't do that,
amazing.
right? And I'm like throwing it across the room and it's sticking to everything. It's ridiculous.
Are you have you become a minimalist, like because you're tired of packing and unpacking, or how does
That's
that
a
work
great
with you?
question. So I got divorced after a 22-year marriage, and when I did, I took very, very few things. In fact, the only things I really took were my heirlooms from my grandmother and my mom, and things that were from my office, as well as anything that was just I couldn't live without. But like as far as like furniture and all that stuff, I ditched most of it, left it. I really wanted to fully start over, and so most of the things that are in my current home, which is now an apartment, so that's a massive downsize from a big house. In the apartment are things that bring me joy, things that my daughter and I made, and things that other friends and relatives of ours created as well. So, yeah, in a sense, I kind of am compared to what we had. We had a lot of stuff, but then my dad passed away. And so my mom went from a house to an apartment for the first time in her life. And so then she started giving me all more stuff. And so I ended up becoming the collector of everybody else's things. I have to come up with a name with that because I'm not a self hoarder. I'm like everybody else's hoarder.
But why is that? Did people trust their belongings to you, or you appreciate their
So
things, or?
So really when you take a look at the things in your life, and here we'll start the tour. So with the things that I have in my home, like for example, precious crystal and things that were my grandmother's, like it's my birthday was March 2nd, so you'll see a lot of birthday stuff. So those kinds of things are really precious because my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. So
Oh,
we didn't have any stuff. We didn't have any things that came over from Poland to Germany to United States because the Nazis took it all. So when you have, few things that you have when they pass away, you want to keep it. And so that's kind of how that went down. I mean, even some of this stuff was a little chipped and I kept it. So yeah, so it's a little bit of that, but it's also kind of bringing in that energy. They were able to build a life. They had a good life after they came after the war. And even though they lost most of their family, if not all, and so they were able to open liquor stores and grocery stores and build a life and do very well. So I kind of like to keep. So in fact, most of the jewelry that I wear is given to me. It was either my grandmother's or my mother's or my boyfriend's mother's. So yeah, so I do cherish those items.
I totally get it because I have that's the memories like from my grandparents or great grandparents passed down is like um little like crystal cups or special hand painted plates, you know. It's those little things I keep from them. But yeah, I have a lot of stuff. Lori can vouch for that.
She makes it all look beautiful. The same with you, Samara. It's so wonderful to know that you appreciate those things. You cherish them. Your grandparents were definitely more than survivors. They, like you said, they were thriving, right? Despite the opposition and adversity and everything they had to overcome. There's a lot of history there, a lot of wonderful, tender memories there. I like your wall. I see the kind of like a wire, a piece of art or some kind of expression. If you want to talk to us a little bit about everything, that would
Yeah,
be so
sure.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so that actually was in my mom's house. And so I said, I'll take that. It matches.
Okay.
And then everything in my apartment actually has kind of a story. But so my mom used to do home staging. She's still with us. She's 77 and with us. And we lost my dad a little over a year ago. So this piece right here actually matched and it made her happy that I had it. It was part of her home staging stuff. So that part is there. But this actually I made at my daughter's birthday party. So we did a birthday party where we all made them and my dad was so cute. He was like 79 at the time and he did one himself, which my mom has in their house, and she did one too at the birthday party. And he goes, "This is the first time I've done art since elementary school."
That's sweet.
It's so
Is that
cute.
a piece of canvas or is it glass,
Yeah,
acrylic?
this is one of those canvases with a
Okay.
pearlized yeah. This our neighbor made in
Mhm.
her apartment and she was going through a lot and she used art as therapy. She still does. She's divorced and moved here from New York. And so we ended up framing it and she came over for a holiday thing that I hosted and she was crying when she saw it because she had no idea. I used to be a corporate event planner, destination manager in New York City. And so after University of Maryland, I went right to New York. And this is Central Park. And it's an art piece that I bought and had professionally framed. And I bought it from an outside street vendor. And it's where the plaza is too, which was like my second home. Literally, I was like Eloise at the plaza. And this piece, so my daughter and I are big diamond painters. And so I'll get you closer to another one. But this piece is the Four Seasons. And then I had it professionally framed.
Mhm.
And then just like a couple other pieces. My daughter Ava made me this for Mother's Day, another diamond paint piece.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful? And
Yes,
butterflies. Like that is actually a really powerful piece. When you really look
absolutely.
at it with the hearts and the butterflies, and my eye is wide open, but well, I wish my eyes were green. They're not, they're brown. Um,
Your eyes are beautiful.
so this one's one of my favorites. So this is another diamond painting that we custom made. And then we did it. So diamond painting, for those who don't know, is little tiny crystals
It's kind of like painting by
by
numbers, but with
numbers.
little tiny beads of that.
Right. And they what they do is they give you a number for each bead and then you put it, it's yeah. So
Per
it's
color.
color code, it's actually color coded and there's a whole key. This is my daughter and I started a company called Whisk It with Flava. Her name is Ava. That's her. And this is her mixer, her KitchenAid mixer. And that's actually a photo that I
Mhm.
had custom made into a diamond painting art. And when we did that business, she was 9 years old. She's an amazing baker. She's only 15 now. So at 9 years old, she was a how-to baker. So we would bake, we would get cake orders. It started out, I was just doing it ourselves. But then she started getting cake orders and getting paid to make these amazing cakes. So we did it together, but she's the baker. I am a horrible baker. I help her with the decorating and lifting and all that because she became CEO at 9 years old in Canada. And then we moved to Scottsdale December 2019 and hit the ground running. We didn't know anyone. She started new schools, same with my son. And then less than 3 months later, we went into quarantine because it was right before COVID. And so we started Whiskey with Flava in Scottsdale and made it an LLC here. And she was the only bakery open in town. So we were getting massive amounts of like cake orders, and it was amazing. We didn't know what we were doing. We figured it out ourselves from YouTube.
That's awesome. How come you were the only ones open?
Because it was COVID, the pandemic. So everything
Right.
was closed, and
Because it was home based or what?
it was out of our apartment.
Right. But that was
Yeah,
the
we were
reason maybe they were okay with you guys doing that?
Well,
Or
yeah.
nobody knew and nobody went after you guys?
The people at the apartment complex all hired us.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
We were
it's
the only
good to
one.
know.
Yeah, even the girls who worked there, a lot of them lived there as well. And so they hired us to do their kids' birthday cakes, and we did like insane cakes. So it was called Whiskey with Flava, and then things started opening up, and then she went into swim team and became social and wanted, had friends. So once that started, the world opened up a little bit more. But she still bakes. She's really talented, and it's pretty amazing. So another thing I want to show you that is a really important piece is, well, this right here we made.
Beautiful. Yes.
So this is finger knitting.
Oh, wow.
And so Ava was like, "Oh, she started doing this with my mom, and my mom didn't know how to do it either. It was like it's a special yarn." And I'm sad because Joann's Fabric is one of the few that sells it, and they're closing all their stores, so they're almost out. But we made a different version for my father. He had a stroke, and then he was in the hospital and all, and so we made one that matches my parents' den. And she did most of it. And so he had that, and then it was at hospice with him. He died within 8 weeks. So with 4 cancers. So when he passed away, Ava said, "I want this on my bed," and she's had it on her bed ever since he died. So that part, yeah. So it's, these things matter,
It's art is very, very therapeutic, and a lot of people don't realize. I mean, yeah, I use it all the time. So, but
And nature.
and nature,
You
but
guys, yeah, and you guys are creative and crafty and really artistic. I'm not.
Well, it looks
actually, I think you are more creative than you think. So I want to say hi to Dea real quick. She's
Oh,
here saying hi. So, and Dea says she loves the butterflies. She loves the art you've been showing. And she says, I have family in Scottsdale. I love
oh,
it there. And I go there a few times a year. And she's going to be a guest. She was a guest on our show here over a year ago. And she's going to be on with Lisa and Corey.
That's so
It's either
exciting.
this week or next week. So
I
Yeah.
love that.
I want to say hello to Eva too, and then Melissa Rasmussen, and then I wanted to say that yes, you are, because the fact that you are professionally framing those pictures, that means you appreciate it. You have an eye for what you want in terms of complementing those pieces of art, and how to frame them. And then just doing that blanket is beautiful. I do t-shirt blankets for my senior graduates. It can be stressful, but it's also very fun to make. They already know since they're young, Mom, I want this. I'm not growing this, or I don't want to wear it anymore, but I for sure want it in my t-shirt blanket. So that's what I do. And how wonderful it is to, for you to have done that for your dad and for your daughter to treasure it. I was going to ask you, with so much loss, your dad and then your husband, right? Because you talked about a divorce. With so much loss like that, what can you tell our audience you've learned about coping or dealing with it or healing from it, especially with art and nature or any other way you have used to continue smiling and living?
Right. Thank you. Good question. And I call him my husband, just so you know. So I'll let that sink in. So
That makes so much sense. It makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So I endured a bit of a trauma in my life, a lot of traumas actually, different ones throughout. I also lost a son, Cameron. And so when you're going through these things, I've been through trauma therapies, and art and Tai Chi and mandatory yogas and things like that, and music are part of art therapy, are part of the therapies that you go through. So even the clinic that I went to, I say we, that I went to, I mean, it was filled with people, men and women alike, that have been through many different things. And I went there for trauma therapy, but there were people there who were recovering, alcoholics and drug addicts and all that. And then you have people who are victims of abuse or rape or, just other things. So it was really hard to watch that, but it was really interesting to see how so many people brought that into the art room, because they give you tons of mediums and say, just do. Like, they'll give you an assignment, they go through a lesson, and we talk about something, and then they say, okay, try to make something, a piece that will kind of resonates with you using the supplies around the room. Use whatever you want and make it as big or small as you want. And then that speaks to you based on what you learned that day. And so it was really interesting because I never really thought of it that way. And it's super helpful because it gives you something to do with your hands too. People, I'm like cold right now, so I'm gonna put my blanket on. People kind of react in different ways. Some people overeat, some people overdrink, some people do drugs, some people, become sex addicts or whatever. And so as those things, as you're analyzing those things and looking at them, it's important to see the underlying on why that's happening, because that's the only way that you're going to recover, because you're really just using it as a way to hide your feelings or keep it back or push it in or whatever. So when you go to these places, they do actually randomly drug and alcohol test you. So you're not allowed to have any drinks whatsoever. And even like kombucha, like things that people don't realize have alcohol in it, NyQuil, Listerine, like there's things that you can't even have during that process because it will show up as alcohol. So you just have to really become one with yourself. And the person who made that painting right there, she was struggling with that, with her trauma and all that. And now she has a job and she's really happy. She's my neighbor. We hang out at the pool. And she went through a really ugly situation. And so she uses art to really cleanse herself as well. So I think it's so important. You don't have to be artistic. You can just throw spaghetti at it if you want, just call it anything. So another example of art is, and I showcase, is my kids are huge Lego fanatics. They always have been. So they do the Lego flower bouquets.
That's a beautiful one.
Thank you.
Very
Here's
pretty.
another one. I have a Lego garden, so I actually am not really good with plants. I kind of hate them. So the kids decided we're going to get mommy fake plants. But look how I took that piece
Oh
that my
my
son made.
goodness.
So that one becomes a wreath, or you can make it like that. And then this is here because my nickname is Little Bamboo because I'm resilient. So when I speak about going from little bamboo to badass bamboo. And so you'll see bamboo in my apartment.
Was
So
that
like
a painting from somebody
that's a
or a picture?
painting. I did
Okay.
not make it. I can't take credit for that one. I bought
So
that one.
every time I see my bamboo, I'm going to remember you. So
Thank you. I
Yes.
love that.
But see, you're
So
surrounded by it and you know how to make it and display it so beautifully. So
she's
that's
very
artistic enough.
creative and you don't even realize it. And when
Mhm.
you go back to talking about therapy, because it reminds me, because I've taught, even though I'm not a certified therapist, I teach art therapy, people don't realize that when you are just even taking an art lessons, it is very therapeutic. It's just, you have to
yes.
watch your terms and stuff. But I actually worked with a bunch of kids that were taken out of an abusive home, that were beaten and starved and stuff. It was a really sad story. And they came like 4 hours, 5 hours just to have therapy with me, work with me. And the whole thing was just for them to be out here in nature,
Hmm.
to be on a table. And sometimes it was just painting a background. But it was so interesting how frustrated and stuff they got at first. But there was learning to get their emotions out. And I had to send the mom, she was the foster mom at that time. I'm like, you have to leave because they wouldn't talk, And so once they left, or she left, I had them for like 3 to 4 hours at a time. And we'd
Wow.
have lunch, we'd go on walks around the yard. And it was amazing seeing them open up over the years, every lesson. Because at first they wouldn't even, they were scared of dogs, they were scared of anything.
Oh, yeah.
And, by the end, it was like he would sit down, the little boy would sit down and just hold our dog because at that time, she was just so good with kids and just told the story. And
Hmm.
they got to like, they would start doing their art, but it was amazing because they would get them to open up and talk. And so then they were able to, they do great in school now. And, because like you said, art or being creative in any way, because there's so many different ways to be creative. It could be making quilts. It can be just like you said, throwing pasta at some of them, which reminds me, little kids, you take pastas and you can create stuff on paper with pastas or
Noodles, right?
leaves. There's so many different things, or going on a walk in nature, how helpful it is. So you don't have to wait for something drastic to happen, because a lot of times, just if you watch the news, you're going to be stressed out. So you might as well go on a walk or start creating something, get yourself a watercolor set, like, Corinne said last week, and just start doodling or whatever medium you want to work with. Just have fun. I mean, when you're just, like you said, trying to create something, and sometimes, you might just go and stare at the bark of a tree and then try creating it. But it helps us, and it helps with anxiety more than we realize.
Yeah, that is true. And I also want to address the nature aspect. So I'm a Pisces, which is a water sign for those who don't know, stuck in the desert. I'm losing it.
I don't know how you're
I
in the desert,
imagine.
because
go
Lori
to,
and I are like,
I'm
we
in
call ourselves
Texas
mermaids.
and
I'm
yeah, I live
surrounded by water, so
Yeah, it's rough for me. So I go to Miami a lot because I'm also a 10X certified business coach. So their home office is in Miami. So I find myself in Florida quite a bit. But there's times where I have to go to Florida for work and then I don't get to the ocean or the beach. I don't see it at all. Maybe I'll see part of the bay or whatever. And that was the joy of being married to a naval officer in submarines, is because we were always near the water. But then I'm so used to that now that it's because I'm from Baltimore. I mean, we had lakes and stuff, but we used to go to Ocean City. We used to go to Atlantic City on the weekends. So I still was raised with that. Then I went to camp in upstate New York. We had a massive lake. So I've always been around the water. And so it is kind of challenging for me. So I do try to get there. But my ultimate goal is to land myself back into Florida where I can be by the ocean, because I need it. I need the sunrise and the sunset. I need the openness. So here I live on the golf course and it's just open, and trees, and unfortunately the pollen lands in my apartment into my apartment building, but it's having that, I have the balcony, like I open the window blinds, like being able to look at the nature and feel it is so important to me as well. So I do want to definitely not miss that before we end
So I
today.
have a question, because our lake, Lake Ponderay, has a special Navy base. Did you guys ever come here? Because it's one of the largest, it's where they test submarines and stuff.
I haven't. I've lived in many places up and down the East Coast, but I haven't been there. And then as far as the West Coast, we just lived in Vancouver. And
Which is
then I lived in
beautiful.
Houston. I lived in Hawaii for 3 years. And then we also lived in Houston for 8.5 years before Vancouver. So I've definitely and then we lived in like, all up and down the East Coast, and then shoo, 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 shoo.
Now, what was the mountain Samara was showing us this
Oh, put
beautiful
it on.
photo, and we'll have her show it again. And so I want to hear about this hike.
I was trying to angle this so that you could see more here. Okay, so this is Mount Garibaldi. This is in British Columbia. And we went my husband and I went, he was big in like the camping stuff. So, and I loved the hiking. So I said, fine, we'll compromise. So this is Glacier in British Columbia, and it's summer. I think it's July. And so we climbed the top of Mount Garibaldi. I took this photo, and when I took the photo, I was climbing up the other side of Mount Garibaldi. And then you had to get down from the top. Not
That
so
is,
easy. Going up was actually easier. Going down,
it,
not so much. So we
it
were
is.
wearing hiking boots and had hiking poles, but we were wearing like running shorts and a tank top. So I had to get down and we were slipping and sliding and we thought we were just going to land on our faces. So we went down on our butts.
No, so what side of Mount Garibaldi? Is it more closer to Whistler or closer to Banff?
It's on the way to Whistler.
Okay. So,
Um,
because I mean, I recognize the mountain because I've been up there, but
mhm.
it was like I wasn't sure which spot because it's been a while. So,
Yeah. So it's kind of in between. It's kind of a hidden gem. And then people go to Black Tusk is the top. And so since we were two parents with young kids in Vancouver, and my husband decided he had to go to the very, very, very tippy top, I said, great, I'll hold our things. Someone's got to be there for the kids. So he went to the top. I'm like taking the photos and the videos, whatever. And he came down and then we went, I mean, but we're talking like like just the tippy top black. And then we had to slide down twice because you go all the way down and then you kind of stop and then you have to go down again. But you basically feel like you're going to go off the mountain. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. I was screaming the entire time. He went first, so I have a video. He has a video of me going, and I'm literally like holding my poles up, and I'm like, and my feet are in the air, and I'm screaming the entire way down. It was terrifying, but it was funny. But it was better than face planting. So, and then
oh yeah.
we went swimming in the ice cold glacier water, which was insanity. But it gets rid of all the inflammation from hiking and camping. And we camped for 3 nights with bears. It was crazy. Like you have to put your food all the way up in the tree so the bears don't, you can't have any food, chopsticks, mouthwashes, toothpaste, nothing in your tent. So yeah, so that was an experience. And so when we lived there, we skied. We went to Lake Louise in the winter. We skied Lake Louise. We did Revelstoke. And then in the summers we would do more of this kind of stuff. So yeah, it was beautiful. We used to
Which
do a Victoria, Nanaimo, Vancouver Island. The kids went to sleepaway camps out there. It was fabulous.
all beautiful, beautiful areas. And if you haven't been there, I'd highly recommend. They are gorgeous, kind of like our area is too, where I live. But the mountains aren't as high here close. We're a few hours from each of those areas. We're only a few hours from Glacier. I think we're 3 or 4 hours from Banff, up there in Jasper and stuff.
Amazing.
So, but it's like the lake we went to, I took Lori to up at Romano's last year, one of the high lakes. I couldn't imagine going there if it was icy at all, because
Mhm.
like you said, those are sheer rocks.
Yeah,
And so there's only certain times a year I will hike those areas because I don't want it. Because I've gone on some of those hikes where you're, like you said, it's coming down can be the hardest. It's like one thing if you're climbing up, and it's steep or whatever, but it's coming
right.
back down can be the tricky part. So,
Yeah, especially because the rocks are like kind of crumbling under you. When we lived in Hawaii, we went to Big Island and Kauai, and Big Island has the volcano that was erupting, and so we hiked that, and that was insane too because like it was the lava was literally melting your boots and the rocks under you, so you could step right into the lava, like because everything's just crumbling underneath you, and that was in the pitch dark because the goal is to go all the way out to see the lava going into the ocean and the smoke because it's so beautiful, but you think that they're going to have people that work there that are going to be there guiding you throughout. Oh no, they do that in like the beginning and then you're on your own with a bunch of strangers the rest of the time. And that was also terrifying. That was the most terrifying thing until I did this.
what's funny is we actually went there when the lava was flowing before they fenced everything off because we had friends that lived on the island. We drove out too close and were walking on all of it before they had anybody working there. And before it was but it was some of the stuff we saw was just so incredible. But yes, we were watching because, like you said, you didn't want to step off into have the rock break and fall into the lava, so we were using caution. So, but yeah, some of those things can be scary.
Question for Samara, going back to her journey after her losses and things like that, and the was husband or husband. So, with my focus on personal development, and I also do clinical hypnosis and all that. What were your observations on your peers or classmates or group mates that helped you understand, or things that they would say that because they needed to test out of those toxic substances or alcohol specifically in the situation, what role did doing that art play, and how important it is in the process, to just focus in the process rather than the outcome or the end result?
So I'm trying to understand the question. Maybe you can ask it in a different way. So I think, are you asking what they went through the process and how the art helped them, or?
Yes, like, okay, what is the difference between, I guess, drowning the pain and the hurt and all that with
Oh,
substances versus having the opportunity to express themselves with art? And then how important it is to I would worry about, oh, this is going to end up ugly. It's not going to be a beautiful masterpiece or whatever. Um, and instead of thinking of the end result, just enjoying the process, versus drowning ourselves in something, or like you said, eating or drinking and things like that.
yeah. I mean, I can't speak for them because I'm not sure how it was for them. But yes, a lot of them were critical about their own art. But that also shows that they were criticized growing up or in their relationships. So that can also reflect on why they're being critical. I was not, and I don't want to leave here to go get it and come back. But in my bedroom, I have my pieces, and I probably should have brought them out. But it's more about your feelings that were portrayed in the art than how good it looks, if that makes sense. And so it's interesting because I didn't even mention this to your crowd, but I own an event planning company. I've been producing corporate, social, nonprofit events and destination management, retreats, team building for 30 years all
Wonderful.
over US and Canada. And so Samara Beth and Company is really going in the direction after the 30 years of doing that. And now my kids are 21. And I mean, that's a whole nother thing. I have a son on the spectrum. He was diagnosed with autism at 13 months old. He's now 21. I have my daughter who's 15. And it's for me, and Legos is the art for my son. So he's a Lego fanatic. He's a Lego room, which has all the Legos. And so that was used for him for focus. Now he's a junior at university, astronomy major. He's gonna be an astrophysicist. But
Bravo.
he
Yeah.
can't talk to people in a room like full of people. Like it's anxiety, it's all that. So there's like a lot of different things about art that really helps people. And even at 21, he's still got Legos for his birthday this year, and that's fine, and he gets excited about it and giddy. Um, Going back to what you just said, something that sparked something in me is that my mom was a past life hypnotherapist, and she was on the board of International Association in Near Death Studies, and she used to plan conferences. And so I was the type A OCD daughter who organized her office and helped her sell tapes, cassette tapes, and books and everything. And I'd also been brought on stage to get hypnotized in front of all these strangers. That was interesting in middle school. But I love how my blanket's just like having me float. Um, so
In the
if it's
mountains.
if it's distracting, I can turn it off. It's the green and the blue, right? So she had a friend who, because she had a lot of friends who had died and come back, right? And she also some had tried to commit suicide. One was struck by lightning multiple times, like all kinds of stuff. Some were in comas, like we're interesting stories. But she had a therapist friend. I can't remember his name, but he's pretty popular. But she had a therapist friend who focused on children, and he would have children come in and do drawings. And so they would use art to analyze what's going on in their lives and to get things out of their head if they couldn't communicate it with their words. And these were kids of all different ages. And there were times where these kids would do these drawings that it's like, how could a kid ever do this? How could a kid even know what this is? And that's just telling you that it wasn't the kid doing it, it's that their past life was doing it. He would have kids, he'd be drawing, and all of a sudden this kid would start speaking in Russian, or some language that they'd never heard in their entire childhood, and they were fluent in that language. Like it just that, and language is an art in itself, right?
Yeah.
And so it just shows that brought a lot out of these kids using art. And then that's where they would show pictures of maybe a boyfriend hurting them, of their mother, like a mother's boyfriend, or just all kinds of situations that they would put down in art, but they would never speak it.
Right.
Don't ever
Yeah.
tell anyone. Don't ever tell anyone. Don't ever tell anyone. Don't ever tell anyone. Don't tell
But
them I
they'll
raped you. Don't tell them I said this. Don't tell them I did this. I mean, sexual abuse, harassment, all this stuff. Don't tell, don't tell, don't tell. And so they didn't tell, but they drew it.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
and what people forget is the user tells them, don't tell anyone. It's not about them hurting them. It's about them always threatening to hurt their mom or a brother or sister or somebody else that they care about.
It's happening right now. I'm not going to get political, but it's happening right now with
Yes.
hostages and people that
It's
are
so
taken,
wrong.
and they're being told, if you do this, we'll kill them. Like
Right.
that's what happens, It's terrible. And kids should never have to endure that,
No.
No, and I
Never.
just believe that drawing or any type of artistic expression, some people they dance with so much passion, and the way they move, it's ballet, or the way they play an instrument, even the way they sing it's just probably the subconscious mind is like that. It needs to come out somehow, somewhere. If it's not illnesses and pains in the body, it is the body is going to speak it somehow or express it. So it's just fascinating how the children were able to draw that or express it somehow. So it has to get out. It has to get out. And I always say, if you don't get it out, it's like stuffing things when after you sweep, you stuff in that under a rug, and eventually when you stand on it, it's gonna puff out, right? So our bodies, our minds are like that. So
Have you been to that place?
like Tammy said, we don't have to wait until a crisis, right, or something chaotic to happen to us, or something traumatic. If we are able to get ourselves in our head that way, to express ourselves right now or under whatever circumstance, that doesn't have to be a crisis. Maybe when there's a crisis, then okay, I know what to do that helps me feel good, helps me release or all this tension and emotions that are inhibiting, and that are in lieu of, as a consequence of this experience that I went through. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, and it's like, Samara, you kind of started talking about, and so did you, Lori, was the fact that we're talking about all the arts. We're not just talking about visual art. We're talking about the music, playing instruments, singing, acting,
Even writing,
producing plays or movies,
content creation,
writing. We're talking about all the arts. It's like, find what works for you, because you may not only help yourself, you may be helping somebody else with what you do. It's like, if you look at movies, some of these like Angel Studios, I was watching a movie out. I think I'll share it here probably tomorrow. It's about growing, farming, and it was very interesting. But what he did, then when they create that, it helps out how many other people, but you could also tell that they enjoyed creating it. Or speaking and stuff. So there's so many different types of arts. There's like you said, like your son loves Legos, and I like Legos. I mean, the one thing I love about having kids and grandkids is the fact that I can go back and be a kid
and play.
and play.
Yes.
It's
I had
and
kids so I could have pizza and birthday cake at all those birthday parties I had to go to.
exactly right. And I mean, and I love being creative,
And your
It's like,
daughter with baking,
I
Samara,
was just
you
gonna
know?
say that. Yeah, the
Mhm.
baking is a huge therapy for her.
Mhm.
She loves it. Unfortunately, we all eat it, which is a problem. It became a problem. We were all like, okay, we need to do it because she went to culinary school during COVID with a French pastry chef. She had one-on-one courses making creme brulee and pâte à choux and Paris Brest cakes. It was insane. So
awesome.
baking is a big one. So it's interesting because I went to performing arts camp in upstate New York for 7 summers, and my brothers went as well. And my best friends were all the leads in all the musicals and all the plays and all that. And I was the chorus girl. I'm not the best singer, but I did everything. I was kind of like I wanted to do everything. I did all the arts and crafts, whether it was leather making or metal making. And I actually had my son made this in school in Vancouver. I have to show you. It's so gorgeous. So
If you can still hear me, like when you come back, maybe you can take the background. Yeah.
yeah,
So we
take it
can,
away.
yeah. The beautiful
Um,
mountains going away.
by my mountains. Yeah. So he made this
Oh my
in
goodness.
metalworking
Oh,
and gave
that
it to
is
me for
amazing.
Mother's Day, and it's got such detail in it. I was like we were so blown away. And then someone gave me this thing when I moved into my apartment. I threw a candle on one side. That's my level of art right there. I can take things that people can do creatively and I can make them look cool.
Yes.
It's an art, it's
Oh my
like
goodness, that
interior
rose, if you want to
design,
show it again. The rose,
Show it again.
yes, it's like, okay, that's just amazing because it's never gonna die. It's never gonna wilt.
Look at the I don't know if you can see the
The
detail, but the line.
details.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. Oh
He
my
made that at
goodness.
school in Vancouver, and I'm like,
Uh,
I forget it's sometimes people are more creative than they realize. Because whenever I've taught art lessons, there can be 30 kids in this class or whatever,
Mhm.
and you might only have one that's having more difficult than the others, but they
Right.
are all creative in their own ways. And it's amazing what you find out about each person as they're doing their art. It's like I was helping with a second grade class. I was there teaching, and they were wondering why this kid was having all these problems with his reading and all of this stuff. They thought it was ADHD and all this other stuff. Well, came to find out, I had him draw something and he mirrored it completely opposite, just
Oh, cool.
perfectly. He was
That's
dyslexic,
amazing.
but none of the teachers, actually, through three teachers, had not caught it. So it's those simple things. Um,
Yeah.
so so I always recommend even if you're teaching, and especially in kindergarten and first grade, have them draw, because it's something that you can see if they reverse the tree or whatever, and then it'll help you with the reading and stuff. So
Here's some
Wonderful.
other examples too. Lashes and brows, highlighting your hair,
oh, hair, you have to be an artist.
hair cuts. Like that is all
Nails.
forms of art. What was that one?
Nails.
Nails. So my
Mhm.
daughter does amazing nail art. She can do like the cat eye thing and all this stuff. Yes. And then you see these girls. I don't know how they do these teeny tiny, art. It's unbelievable. I mean,
Mhm.
my daughter's obsessed with that stuff on TikTok and she's like constantly watching nail art. And then she wanted to get all that for her birthday and she does it. I don't have patience for that. I go and I can't even do my other hand, you know?
It's funny. It's because it's like what you have patience for. It's like my sister makes as her like extra thing she just loves to do is making quilts, and she's a therapist. But for her downtime, for stress relief, is making quilts, and these are detailed quilts. She makes
Yeah.
these huge quilts. How's all the quilt and I'm like going, and I've made quilts before, and I'm like, I just don't have the patience for that. But then you look behind me,
And she has
and
the patience for that.
for sculpting garbage. So it all depends
Go
on what
figure.
you're into. And the reason why, for me, I like to create nature or be able to go outside. I have my degree in fashion. I used to design wedding gowns and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Really?
But I hated sitting at a sewing machine
Ugh.
because you're inside. And I felt like I was stuck when it was beautiful out. I was having to design, I love the designing part. I didn't like the sewing part. Because I'd rather just draw, because if you're designing, you could be anywhere. But if you're having to sew it, you're in that at that machine. And I'm not one for sitting too long at a machine. So
So,
it's a
So
matter of finding what you love. It's like sometimes you hear these parents, it's like the kid's doing really great at ballet or playing an instrument, but they don't like it anymore. And it's because it becomes too much. And so you have to throw in something else and maybe they'll come back. But it's like it's like our one daughter, she was like, I don't want to go to ballet. But I'm like, but when you do go, you enjoy it. So we got her. I'm like, so I was like, okay, we're going to watch and see how you are afterwards. And so she goes to ballet for her. She was taking all kinds of classes. It was like 4 hours of ballet. And she's loving it, not wanting to leave. And I'm like, see, you actually do love ballet. So it's like you have to look at and throw other things in there every once in a while, right?
yeah, well, once it becomes a chore or something you have to do, then it's not fun anymore, and that's where it becomes work. And so it's interesting you say that, because it's also interesting too, because I was like, okay, this is great. I want to be able to take my computer and work by the pool or work here. I can't get my Wi-Fi or my whatever to work at the pool, and it's hot here most of the month, many of the months, and so everything overheats. So I'll be like, oh, I want to work at the pool, but every device is like overheated within like 10 minutes. So I'm like, ugh. So that's why I just open up and I work in my office in the back. Like, I really don't leave all day long, and it makes me crazy. Just not having, I need to have the nature surrounding me at all times, or I go a little loco.
So,
Yeah.
Samara, time goes by super fast when we're having fun, and this has definitely been an insightful and amazing conversation. I also want to encourage those who watch the broadcast recorded version to tell us, post a comment, and some of you do that, but many people like eventually in a different conversation tell us, at me, myself, or Tammy, like, oh my goodness, I watched your recordings and they're so awesome. But we don't know you're there. You don't know you're there. And we want to be able to have your feedback, your reactions, your comments, questions for the guests, questions for us. And I want to encourage you to maybe do hashtag recording, and just tell us that you're here with us, even when it's just the recorded version versus the live. We love the ones that are here with us live. And Samara, if you have any other comments, or Tammy, another question for Samara before we leave, bringing everything together as far as like how nature and art have helped you in your journey.
Well, I'd like to finish by saying, yes, I teach people how to produce their own events and retreats, masterminds and workshops and summits. And so if you have people in your group that maybe they don't want to do it on their own, but they want to collaborate with others, I do it in a group or one-on-one setting, or people hire me to do it for them. And so they're able to do art lessons or therapy or education, art history, whatever, graphic design. Like, there's so many different levels. So if any of the listeners are interested in doing those types of things, that's where I come in. I take people's art and I display it in different ways and help them create their own retreats and events. And I also know a lot of artists as well who would love to collaborate. So we could certainly come up with some ways to do that. They can find more about that on my website, samarabeth.com. I'm assuming you guys might be able to put it into the chat. So when they go to samarabeth.com, they'll see the different courses. We also have a bucket list planner that your group might like, because it's not just about trips. Your bucket list, I have had a bucket list for years on my phone, and it has the things that I want to do before I die. And so some of them are write a book, do this, do that. And so go on this trip, go hiking here, whatever it may be, go to a certain restaurants, so bucket list planner is really fun, and I can give your listeners a free digital version of that. They can buy the paper version. It's very inexpensive on Amazon. And so those are just giving them some ideas. What it does is starts to whet their palate. Look at that. That was a little art joke. Um,
I love it.
I'm here all day for comedy, people. So that's a nice way for them to be able to do that. And then I have the ultimate retreat workbook too, that does the similar thing, just at a higher level. And so, yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to do that. And then I'll get you the link for for them to get the free downloads. And then hopefully we'll all stay in touch, but more importantly, follow me, so that we can follow each other, and I'll follow you back. Just, message me how I know you and I'll follow you back. So you can find me on Instagram at Samara Beth and Co. And is written out. And then you can find me on Facebook. Samara Beth Schwartz Hurley is my personal, and then my business is Samara Beth and Company written out. I'm
So,
also on
and
LinkedIn.
you are welcome to put that on there if I don't, Samara, on the
Also on my
here.
website. So the easiest thing is for them just to go to
Right.
smartbeth.com
And which I had in your
Yeah.
picture, but yeah, you guys make sure you follow Samara. And if you're interested in one of her bucket list form or something, just make a note in the comments, and so she knows that you're interested in that. So right, that you want her email, or if you want her website or events or anything. Samara is a great person for you to work with. She does her events and retreats, and we're hoping to work with her as well here in the future. So, um, also, I'm trying to think. There was something else I was going to ask you. Was there anything else that you wanted to share, Samara?
I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but I think for those who, are seeing AI taking over, and Tammy and I are in AI courses and such, and I use AI every day. However, if you use it to help you come up maybe with ideas, or to market your materials and your art, it's a wonderful way to do that. If you think that it's threatening your industry or your business with art, because of graphic design and videos and all these things being created with AI, find a way to use it to enhance and not feel threatened by it, because using your hands and having things made from your hands or your mind, whatever, is more valuable, and that's never going to go away. So I want to make sure that you guys keep going with that, and keep doing what you're doing, and don't think that anything looks bad. You made it for a reason, so keep it.
And you just remind me what it was I was going to say. So, and what I was going to add was, so this is a challenge for you this week. Put in a post us, share with us your creations.
Yes.
What you do, we'd love to see those photos. And if you're playing an instrument, post a picture of the instrument, or of you playing that instrument, or whatever you do. So we love it when you share your photographs, your pictures,
Your
that you create.
creations. Yeah.
So, or if you made a cake, I have fun playing with food too. So, it's fun doing those different things, creating something colorful. It's like Lori was describing what she made for dinner, her fajitas earlier before Samara came on here, and I'm picturing them. So, hey, I want to see a picture of that, Lori,
Okay.
how colorful it can be, because you can be creative with so many different ways. Or if you go on a walk, it's like, I actually do have a video to share that I went on a walk last week and yesterday. And it was so much fun just being outside. And I really, really needed it.
And I went to a museum last week. I think I
Yeah.
shared that in the group, and it's just so wonderful. If you don't create it, go enjoy it. Go in the midst of it, like Tammy in nature, me in a museum, appreciating somebody's legacy and art. I mean, there's so many ways to just step out and do those things that make you happy. Remember, we're all about self-care. We're all about putting that oxygen mask on, and we're wanting to advocate for that and be examples of it, and help you understand how important that is too. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to share. I'm doing rock therapy this week. We're actually installing our rock fireplace.
yeah,
So
look at Samara.
awesome.
Yeah, Tamara, show it again, because I had
I
it on
have
sticker.
actually I have a whole tray of rocks and gems right here. So let me just show you the whole thing. So you're gonna laugh. Some of these are really funny. People gave them to me though.
Oh, how cute!
Now,
Like
do
the
you guys
smiley
have the rock,
face.
the
Yeah,
rock kind where you
the
can play
heart that looks
leave
like a
rocks?
heart.
And some of these rocks I, collected, which you're not supposed to do in Canada. I mean in Arizona, but so what I wanted to add is if you'll have me at whenever, I would love to come on and talk about how we utilize art in events because
Yeah.
I didn't even talk about it, but we do very creative ways of implementing art throughout the events through lighting and actual I've hired so many artists. So it would be really cool because that might spark some interest in how people can turn their art into a business.
Wonderful.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, from backdrops, lighting, there's so much that goes into production that people forget about. So,
and I actually go to galleries and go to art events, which we have a lot here in Arizona, to get inspiration from. I get inspiration from movies and art as well. So that'd be so cool.
Samara, can you show us the tray of rocks again? I think I
Yeah.
had it in a different view, and I was talking, so I was the only one that was on the screen.
Oh,
So now so I just want to make sure people see what I saw.
So
There
some
they
of
are.
these are rocks that we found on the beaches, and some of them are from some of them are Jerusalem rock from Jerusalem. And then there's like this, my mom's friend gave me this. She made this for me.
That is a very cute one. I love that one.
And then this is Rocks of Love. That didn't sound good. So here's the thing with these. So some people in Arizona, I'm sure other places too, they do the stones, and you can buy the stones, by the way, because we've done this for Ava's class. They sell the stones at Michael's craft store and other craft stores. And so, and then people make, Ava made that. It says sleigh.
so they have that up here. People just collect rocks and paint rocks and then leave them at different places. And then if you take a rock, you're supposed to exchange a rock, kind of
Right.
like a treasure. So,
Exactly. And that's what they do. They leave it out on their front yard and then they say, take a rock. And so they do. And then I have crystals and rocks that we find. And this is in one of my grandmother's port glasses. It's going to sit in a cabinet. Might as well use it, right? So, and that's where I start to like integrate things for candles and art and all that throughout. I mean, a lot of this stuff is handmade. That's what I like, and crystals and things like that, because to me that's more important. And my friend made this.
So you are creative for sure.
I know how to put it out.
Oh, well, that's because you're an event planner. So you have all that creative talent hidden. So, and you went and your parents let you take classes and stuff that encouraged it. So that's amazing. So it's been an honor having you here, Samara. It's time for us to say goodbye. We want to thank each and every person that's watching, and be sure to post, share what you've created with us. So we really want to say thank you for being here and ask your questions.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Yay.
Of course.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.